I finally have a residency lawyer joining me to explain the basics of residency in Costa Rica. Andrea Rojas, thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Many thanks to you for having me in your channel, Matt. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Let's get rolling with the basics of residency. You help retirees, all kinds of expats, earn their residency status every year. What are the main programs that you work with for expats coming to Costa Rica?
So basically for expat community, they have a lot of options in order to move here to the country. So the most famous or well-known ones are the Rentista, the Pensionado or Retiree, and also the Rentista or Rentier. So these programs are great, and it would depend on your economic possibilities or characteristics. They're great options.
So there's the renter and retiree programs. Let's first talk about the Rentista or renter program. Give us the basics. What is required in that program? Or how does someone earn that status?
So Rentista program is great, and it's really easy now to get it approved because there is this new platform online for the immigration process, and that means the processing time is being cut to 2 or 3 months.
Really?
Yes, before some of other programs that are taking longer, like around 9 months to be approved, for example, the investor one. But the Rentista, going back to your question, the Rentista one is great because basically what you have to prove is you have $60,000 in the country. And the way it works is that you have to open a bank account here and transferring that money into Costa Rica. Then the bank entity is gonna issue a letter, and the letter is gonna be something that you have to submit along with the rest of the paperwork in order to prove that you have the $60,000 and you qualify as Rentista.
Your Rentista residency, how long of a term is it valid, and can you renew it?
Yes, so once you become a resident, you're gonna have your DMEX card, and then it's gonna be valid for 2 years. Okay? After 2 years, you have to renew it, and then it's gonna be valid for another 2 years, but then on the 3rd year, you are allowed to switch into permanent residency, and then no longer the $60,000 are gonna be needed.
You've got your first 2 years done. Do you have to deposit an additional $60,000 to get your renewal?
You do not. Basically, the money, you have two options, you know. You can just leave the money there, sitting the $60,000, or you're allowed to withdraw $2,500 monthly. You can just leave the money there, and then it's gonna be there for the renewal, or you can withdraw the monthly amount that I just mentioned. If you're not a resident, sometimes banking here is difficult because you don't have the right ID, you only have your passport, and then some banks, they will not open a bank account under your name. But in this case, with this category, you're gonna have a bank account. So it's great, you know, because you're gonna have that for the $60,000 used, and then you're gonna have the possibility just to do banking easier. So that's another good thing about this category, in my opinion.
Yeah, I frequently thought that opening a corporation helped with banking and that it would facilitate online banking and SinPay Mobile and all of the things. But I've heard recently that without being a resident, there are restrictions. Banco de Costa Rica, for example, won't give you an account that can do interbank transfers unless you're a resident. And that was surprising and news for me. So for retirees, they only have to prove Social Security income of $1,000.
That's correct.
How is that verified here in Costa Rica to prove that they've got this Social Security, if they're an American, for example?
Yeah, for example, Americans, it's very easy because there is an agreement with the U.S. Embassy located in Costa Rica, San Jose, and basically you just have to coordinate with them a letter where that letter, which is going to indicate the benefits. Bring also some more paperwork that we could talk about later if you want. But it's very easy.
Absolutely, and they take Social Security from pretty much any country on earth, European pensions, Canadian pensions. Can they be benefits from a military program or other sources, or is it strictly government Social Security?
Yeah, it's strictly Social Security benefits, usually.
Okay. Let's go on to the investor program, where Years ago, you had to invest $200,000 in Costa Rica. Last year, they dropped the requirement to $150,000 and passed legislation everyone was waiting for.
I know.
Is that legislation in action now? Is it officially $150,000?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. So basically, all the applications that we are submitting, for example, at this point, yes, that's the minimum requirement by law now. This new law, it's great in my opinion. It gives a lot of benefits. I wish I could apply under that one. You can bring like stuff from abroad, and it's great. We're just waiting, like all the community related with immigration law is just waiting for the regulations of this law in order to be approved. It's gonna tell us how in practice it's gonna work and be applied, the tax benefits. But it's true, and you can apply using the new rules now.
Yep.
So it's great.
Those tax benefits, bringing containers down of your personal items, are those in place yet? Can we get a tax-free importation of a container?
Yes, so according to the law, yes, you could, because the law is approved, you know, but this is a tricky question. Why? Because the regulations are the ones that usually give you the direction of how the law is going to be understood, okay? And since we do not have the regulations, it's hard to, for example, go to the tax administration or customs and say like, hey, I have here my DMEX and like I should be enjoying these tax benefits. So then there is a little bit of confusion about how it should be handled in practice.
Yeah.
But to answer concrete to your question, yes, of course, you should be able to enjoy the tax benefits now.
So with all of these processes, I know when I applied for residency as the parent of a Costa Rican child, we didn't have to leave the country as soon as our application was submitted, and that was one of the biggest benefits for us. Do you have to leave for your 90-day visa while you're applying for any of these programs? Or is it across the board you can stay here in Costa Rica while you have a pending application?
So while you have a pending application, you do not need to leave the country every 90 days after your visa gets expired, except for driving purposes. So if you're gonna be driving, you better do the border run.
Because remember, your US or Canadian driver's license is only valid with a 90-day stamp.
That's correct. And for the investor program, basically the documents you're gonna need are everything related with the property, with the investment. So usually if you purchase the property through a firm, then the firm should be able to provide all the documentation related with that.
Yep.
So it's easy.
So your vital documents are your crime record from your national police authorities. If you're married, you need to bring down your marriage certificate as well, and definitely a recent birth certificate. And then beyond that, the documents needed will pertain to each program. Give me a quick overview of the benefits of becoming a permanent or a resident in Costa Rica under one or more of these programs.
Okay, so right now I think it's great to become a resident here because you have lots of tax benefits linked to this new law that we were talking before. So everything related with those, it's great in my opinion, and also you don't have to leave the country every 90 days, and then you have access to our healthcare system. So I think it's very good. Also, I think banking becomes easier, and of course, you're gonna be able to have a Costa Rican driver's license.
And I definitely think that for a lot of our viewers, not having to leave the country to renew their visa is a huge benefit.
Yeah, especially right now with all these things related with the pandemic. For some people, it's difficult to be completing border runs all the time. So you really want to stay here, and then becoming a resident will give you that possibility.
Now, here's a big question. How much does this cost me? What does an application for residency cost? And I know there might be different costs for each program. If you're willing to share sort of how much should an expat expect to pay for their residency application?
Okay, so that's a great question, and actually it's going to change according to the firm, okay? So, but basically here, for example, what our fee is going to be $1,400 per adults and $1,100 per children, plus the 13% of tax. and some other costs associated, like translations, or for example, if you're applying as investor, we're gonna need some certifications from the registry that are related with the corporation, if you bought through a corporation, or with the property itself, and then the government filing fees that they are around $200, $251 to be precise.
But really, it sounds like that $1,400 initial fee as an adult. Maybe you stack on $500 total more, and someone might expect about $2,000 all in to get the process done.
Yeah, I've seen like different price ranges,
Absolutely.
but that's what we charge at least.
Totally. You can pay any one of a number of service providers, people who will help you for a fee, or not all of them have to be turned in by a lawyer. You can manage the process by yourself, but hiring people like Andrea makes it a whole heck of a lot easier when you start going back and forth with the immigration department and processing your application.
Yeah, what I would say, Matt, the most important here is that your application gets approved, okay, in no time. So I would say try to look for someone who really does immigration every single day and knows about the process, because what I've seen is it's very sad, but some people, they do not know a lot about it, and this is constantly changing. So you must be up to date with all the changes. So just
Absolutely.